Welcome into today's episode of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Mike Renner, JP Acosta, Kyle Long, here to break down Monday Night Football, do a little Monday Night Football recap. We're going to do Kyle's Trench Take, JP's Playbook, my rookie report. Not rookie report, though, because it's draft prospects, and we're doing the quarterback class. We had to get to it at some point. We're doing the quarterback class today.
We're waiting for that one.
Then we're giving out our midseason awards. But before that, Kyle has a little announcement to make. Kyle?
Okay, guys. So as you know, me and Mike, since the beginning of last year, we've been doing Pushing the Pile, and we really got the ball rolling, and Mike's been fantastic. But obviously, I wear a lot of hats and play a lot of different positions for CBS, and it's become a lot, but also a lot of great fun. You can find me on the YouTube stuff for NFL and CBS all week. Sometimes I'm like, get my face off the internet, but like it's out there now, so I have to be careful of what I say on Sundays. It's been a great deal of fun for me, and I just wanted to let people know that if you are wondering where Kyle is over the course of the next few weeks, just understand that I'm not gone from CBS. I am going to be taking my foot off the gas pedal for Pushing the Pile because I am needed in a number of roles for CBS. And I love JP and I love Mike, and they know that. And you'll see us all night on Twitter interacting, and our group text will still be active. And I'm just going to be stepping away from my role at Pushing the Pile. You can find me obviously on NFL Today Plus on Sundays, 10 o'clock Eastern. Wherever it is you watch your pregame shows. And then sometimes I'll be on NFL Today HQ. I'll be on every Tuesday morning doing the morning buzz. Going to be doing my noon hit and Pete's picks. Like this afternoon, I'll be doing my picks with Pete. So a lot of fun stuff in the works. And we've got some exciting stuff coming down the line here. This week, I'll be recording some stuff for CBS that we haven't done yet. And it's exciting, and it's sad that I'm not going to be doing this stuff with you guys a couple times a week because I really do enjoy talking ball and listening to two of the smartest guys in the industry. But I know that if you have found your way to the Pushing the Pile podcast, you're in great hands with these two guys. And that's the announcement. Let's roll on with the news. I can't wait to hear about these freaking quarterbacks that are coming up because some of us are excited about the upcoming class, and some of us have our guy, and we're not even looking. So let's find out more.
Yes, definitely not goodbye. Kyle's still going to be on from time to time, but just not as regular as he was before. When you're traveling to Provo, to New York, and then trying to make it back to watch your two young daughters, he was in a time crunch more often than not. And so
yes,
glad that he's on to bigger and better things here.
I wouldn't say that, buddy.
We shall see. All right, let's get to Monday Night Football. Before that, though, it is now confirmed. It's official. This was the worst week in modern NFL history. It was with a 21-point blowout on Monday Night Football. The average scoring margin in week 8 was 18.46. That was the 7th worst, biggest, worst, however you want to describe it. 7th best, biggest all time. Still paled in comparison to week 14 of 1970, though, where the average scoring margin was 23.54.
Oh, my God.
That had to be a stinker. Was your dad around, Kyle? Was your dad playing around then?
Did it start with a 7? No,
yes.
he started in 81.
Okay.
Just after the John Madden regime left the Raiders.
Okay. So he was probably watching, though, back then as a kid.
Oh, yeah. He was at Villanova trying to steal a peanut butter sandwich without anybody noticing.
But, yeah, one game decided by one score, 18.46 scoring margin. A tough one. Monday Night Football, though, I thought it was a good game. I mean, there wasn't a punt until the third quarter. It just was, though, the Kansas City Chiefs in that offense outclassing the Commanders once again.
Before we get into the Monday Night Football game, do you guys want to guess who led the NFL in passing yards that week in 1970? I just found it, and it is hilarious.
Oh, no. I see my timeline before I was born in terms of that's why I just ask how when guys played is so bad. If you played 1980 versus 1960, I don't know the difference. I'll say Bart Starr.
No, but you were sort of on the right path. Craig Morton of the Dallas Cowboys threw for 349 yards in the Cowboys' 52-10 route of the Houston Oilers. So That was the most impressive passing performance of the week in 1970. And in this game, like you said, it was a good game, but I also thought it was a weird game for like the first half because you had the two drop passes that led to interceptions where they both hit the other player in the face. So like Deebo Samuel literally like the ball hit him in the face mask, and Mike Daniels just like catching like a punt. And then Travis Kelce sort of just walks directly into the way of Juju Smith-Schuster to drop the pass that leads to an interception. But my number for this game was 3. That's many passing touchdowns Patrick Mahomes had in the second half. And it really just felt like the Commanders' defense ran out of gas. They ran out of people. And the biggest issue for the Commanders going forward is, we kind of said it before, they are so old and slow that their lack of speed really shows up when you play a team like Kansas City. They don't have a lot of guys who can get under those crossing routes by Travis Kelce. They don't really have the guys to run with Xavier Worthy. Rashee Rice found his way onto Bobby Wagner for a touchdown pass at the end of the game, which we called was going to happen on Thursday. So it feels like the Chiefs just keep rolling. They're going to Buffalo, or they're playing Buffalo for that, always the biggest game of the year next week. But it feels like this Chiefs offense and Patrick Mahomes has played at such a high level since getting the guys back, and it's been super fun to watch.
I think that when you're watching that game, and I'm glad Mike said that it was a good game because it was enjoyable to watch for a while. And depending on who you're rooting for, then it became not enjoyable to watch. But the Commanders had to be perfect. You're on the road. You've got your backup quarterback in it, albeit, in my opinion, it's the best backup quarterback situation in the National Football League, just based on the archetype of quarterback that they have. And they don't have to change anything in their offense. So I got to give credit to Cliff Kingsbury for having a great game plan, because at the beginning of the game, they were just – it wasn't chunk plays, but they were staying on schedule with the passing game, with the running game. And I give credit to Mariota as well. But it was that interception to Deebo that really set the table for what was going to be the slow decomposition of the Washington offense. I mean, you have to be perfect. And when you throw it to Deebo Samuel in the flat, he's got to catch the football. You're rolling on that drive, big time momentum in a spot in the game where both offenses, obviously weren't on fire. I give credit to the Commanders, but to your point, not enough speed. And the speed showed up for the Chiefs against the Commanders. I think it shows up again this coming game against the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I'm worried about this Commanders team. I think it's officially time to hit the panic button, considering they're 3-5. They are now looking up at a lot of teams in the NFC. Just going through kind of the NFC hierarchy right now, you have your division leaders of the Eagles, Packers, Bucs, Seahawks. Those teams are all going to be there at season's end. Like I'd be surprised, honestly, if the Packers, the Lions could win that division, the Seahawks, the Rams could win that division, but like none of those 4 teams are missing the playoffs, in my opinion, or the Commanders are not leapfrogging those 4 teams.
No.
And after that, you have Lions, Rams at 5-2. They feel pretty safe bets to make the playoffs. There's really kind of one playoff spot up for grabs right now in the NFC, and it's that final wild card where the 49ers at 5-3 currently have it. But the teams that are above the Commanders right now, just in terms of record, you also have the Bears, the Panthers, the Cowboys, the Falcons, the Vikings, all ahead of the Commanders, and the Commanders host the Seahawks next weekend. So they could go to 3-6 very easily. Then you're looking up at a lot of teams. You're obviously not a good defense. We've not seen any signs of life that suggest that they will be a good defense at some point this season. And so it's basically on Jaden Daniels to win you every single game that he's out there. And they got by on that his rookie year and snuck a few out, but the schedule's too tough this year.
Wasn't it 10 games that were one possession, 10 wins? That's a Disney movie, bro. And like we said, all offseason, the worst thing that the Commanders have going for them this year was that last year happened.
Yes.
And people have this sky-high expectation. And obviously, with the slender frame of that quarterback and some of the, as Mike has put it, cartoonish hits that he takes, that's not a sustainable formula. You need to have the floor raised by a defense, by youth on that side of the ball, to be able to sustain competitive game. You can't give up 30 points every week and expect to win. But yeah, I think about the teams that you named that are ahead of them. And while I wholeheartedly believe the Commanders are not going to make the playoffs, if you are a Commanders fan and you've got Jaden Daniels coming down the pipe right now, and you talk about the Vikings, well, they don't have a quarterback. And Carson Wentz was Carson Wentz last week. And give me the other one. You said it was the Vikings.
So
it was
Vikings,
the
Cowboys, Falcons,
Matt Eberflus, period. What's the other one?
Panthers, Bears, 49ers.
Panthers, Bears, 49ers. I mean, like, you're watching Christian McCaffrey and you're just thinking, when is this offense going to stop being effective? You know, if they can keep giving him the ball. There's a million reasons why, as a Commanders fan, you could still be excited. But us three, stepping out of the echo chamber that is football fandom, we can say, look, it doesn't look great for the Commanders.
But on the opposite side of that, you've already lost to the Bears. You've already lost to the Falcons. You've already lost to the Cowboys. You're already behind the 8 ball when it comes to those teams fighting for that final wild card spot. So if it comes down to just tiebreakers, you already don't have the tiebreaker against the Bears and the Falcons. You need both teams to implode and then to win the Commanders game. You need to win the Cowboys game at the end of the season to really get yourself back into that playoff spot. But like we said, I don't think this defense is good enough. And the blame sort of goes to Adam Peters and how they built this team. They didn't make enough significant adjustments or changes to this defense. The hope was Bobby Wagner continues to find it at the age that he is. Marshawn Lattimore continues to or tries to find it at his age. You're hoping for splash plays from Javon Kinlaw, who was their big defensive free agent signing, but none of that has been good enough. And then you look at what they did in the draft. Trey Amos was their second-round pick, but Josh Connerly has been sort of bad. Not even sort of bad. He's been bad as a rookie this year. He was getting pushed around by George Karlaftis on Monday, and it really stood out how small and just how light the Commanders were against this Chiefs defensive line. The Chiefs defensive line sort of built to win with power, and it felt like somebody was in Marcus Mariota's lap the entire game. So it really comes just down to team building, and this team this year probably just isn't good enough.
Yeah, I think we knew that about Connerly, though. I mean, if you watched him coming out, you knew of all the first-round tackles, he was the biggest project. You know, very athletic, but he was the guy that got, you know, the viral rep from the Senior Bowl against Mike Green. It came against Josh Connerly, and the whole excuse was, oh, but he was a left tackle, and that was at right tackle. It's like, well, actually, he's playing right tackle now for the Commanders, so that's not great. I do think, though, it's all kind of a moot point. I honestly think the NFC right now, I don't think we see it change. I think the 7 teams that are in the playoffs right now are the 7 teams because, like I said, the first 6 are like a clear tier kind of above everyone else in the NFC. Those are 6 very good teams. And then the 49ers have a cakewalk into the barn here. They still have Panthers, Browns, Titans, Cardinals, Giants all on their schedule that they should be favored in all of those games. And then you always give them one of those where they have the Rams and Seahawks at home. They've already played them on the road. They have them at home to end the year. So I think it's going to be those 7 that are in right now. I'd be surprised if anyone breaks into that, but obviously injuries, other things could change that. But those 7 seem like the clear top right now. Let's flip it just to the Chiefs real quick, just because I want to make one last point about them. We obviously knew the offense was coming. When everyone got healthy, we figured this offense would be very good. It's just literally on paper the best collection of weapons he's had in 3 years, Patrick Mahomes has. But defensively, what they've done the past 3 weeks against the Lions, Raiders, and now Commanders, and sure, it's Marcus Mariota versus Jay Daniels. It's a little different, but stopping the run. They have had a 31.4% rushing success rate over those 3 weeks against 3 capable rushing offense. Lions is obviously a very good one. Commanders can be a very good one. Raiders at least have a very good running back. A dominant, that's number 4 in the NFL over that span, dominant run defense after it was such an issue early on. I think that's the biggest change about why early on we're like, hey, there's real issues here. Now it's like, oh, wait, this team's house.
Yeah, and it goes to the second level. I think that's where the biggest change has been since the early part of the season. Nick Bolton, Leo Chenal, Drew Tranquill have been playing inspired football against the run. Still some stuff to be ironed out in the passing game. They sort of just forget to defend checkdowns, which is exactly what happened on Monday against Commanders, where like Jeremy McNichols would chip somebody and then just leak out and nobody would defend him. I think part of that is because they were so worried about Mariota as a runner that they just never passed off the chip. But they still have so many good, talented pieces against the run. Like I said, Nick Bolton has played a lot faster. Leo Chenal has played very well against the run. You get the speed of Drew Tranquil on the backside. And then I just think they're tackling a lot better as a passing unit. They just, not a lot of players are going for explosives now because they're tackling a lot better. I still do worry a little bit about their corner situation when they go into nickel, especially if you're going to play Chamari Connor in the slot, which has not been good at all this season. I do think they need to add there. But it's encouraging to see the defense start to take a turn, especially going into a game against Buffalo where the run game is going to really be tested. But also shout out Terry McLaurin for two of the most improbable catches I've seen this year. And it ultimately doesn't matter, but they were super cool. Like the touchdown catch, I didn't think he was in. I didn't think he got both feet down. And then the one on the sideline where like his right knee hits before his body goes out of bounds, it was pretty sick.
I'm glad you bring up, Mike, the point about the defense, particularly their success against running the football, because at the beginning of the year, watching that Chiefs defense, I was thinking to myself, I don't care who comes back on the offensive side of the ball. If teams can run the football the way that they are early on, the Chiefs are going to be in deep, deep water, deep moving water every single week. And for Spags to be able to get his guys on the right page up front, and for Chris Jones to rally the troops. And like you said, getting guys down quickly after they catch the football. Catches happen in the National Football League. We spend all week in offensive meetings scheming to get guys open. And when you get guys open, the way you really have success is get them the football and make somebody miss. And that's when the explosive plays happen. The Chiefs don't allow that. They suffocate offenses, and they don't let the bleeding continue. And that's what makes them great. And now you've got Patrick with his guys on the offensive side of the ball. It's the Chiefs again. The Chiefs are the Chiefs again. And, people are like, are we seeing vintage Mahomes? I'm like, we are in the vintage Mahomes. Like, what are we doing here? Okay. Like Aaron Rodgers is 52. Kirk Cousins is 65. Patrick Mahomes might as well be 23. So we're in the height of Patrick Mahomes. And I got a question for you guys. They're showing a lot of Nagy on the sideline. They're showing a lot of Andy Reid on the sideline. Both are talking into the microphone. Both have play sheets. We've talked about this with Nags before, but like, is he just a Jedi in training right now? Like, I know he's won Coach of the Year because I played for him, and he's got pelts on the wall in that regard. But like, is he retraining? Is he getting his master's now? And is that what's going to happen in Kansas City? It's just going to be a handoff?
I think it's going to be a handoff. I do. I think it comes down to both the timing of if Andy Reid decides to hang him up soon. Like, you already have a guy in Nagy who has experience with Andy Reid, experience being a head coach. Like, it feels wise from the side of Matt Nagy to just not go take a job with some instability, uncertainty, and just wait until Andy Reid retires, because you're going to get that job, and you already have familiarity with the best quarterback in football. So it looks like it's going to be Nagy sort of pushed into that role, and you're kind of getting him like re-educated on what.
And I'm not pushing Andy out either. I'm just curious because like when we're watching the game, I'm like, who's calling the plays here? Like in the low red, is this an Andy or a Matt Nagy special? And I feel like maybe Matt Nagy's the only guy on the face of the earth that Andy Reid would be like, go get him here. Go get him.
Yeah.
So just from a pure timing age perspective, Andy Reid's 67. Patrick Mahomes just turned 30. Matt Nagy's 47. So Reid 5 to 6. I will say if he coaches 5 to 6 more years, you're not like walking into a great job. Patrick Mahomes in his late 30s. Yeah, he's probably still going to be Patrick Mahomes. He's probably still going to be great, but it's not like you have a ton of runway with him. You're going to have to manage that succession plan if you take over as head coach. I assume, though, given how his first tenure at head coach went and his age, that I think he's just going to try to wait it out at this point in KC. I think you'd be silly not to, just given the job security that you have in that role. All right. That's it for our Monday Night Football recap. We're going to take a quick break. After that, Trench Takes, JP's Playbook, and the Rookie Report. Right after this.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. So even if you can't count on accurate expiration dates,
that is a rookie mistake,
or people appreciating your fashion sense,
Jim, the crowd is not on board here.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus.
Glad we wear our good jerseys.
Yeah. All right, now it's time for the Trench Take, sponsored by Nationwide. Just like any good O-lineman can protect the quarterback and open lanes for the run game, Nationwide offers great insurance and great financial services. Nationwide is on your side. Okay, so I'm watching these Chicago Bears this weekend, guys, and this is going to be a group therapy session, all right? And you guys are actually the therapists. I'm just in my leather couch over here, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating to walk away from getting into the red zone twice to start the game and kicking field goals with the number of weapons that you have on the outside, with the number 1 draft pick, with a revamped offensive line, with a defense that has question marks all over it all season. I'm listening to my guy Olin Kreutz on 670 The Score, and I often listen to Olin Kreutz and Pat Manley. So those of you who don't know, Olin Kreutz, in my opinion, a Hall of Fame center. He's not there yet. One of the baddest men to walk an NFL field, old 5'7". And Pat Manley, who was like a 20-year long snapper, O-lineman turned long snapper for the Bears, and a guy that let me sit next to him in the meetings my rookie year. Very kind to me, but also a star in the media. Olin Kreutz said something that I think is really, really smart, and I'd never heard it. Okay, I grew up in an NFL house. I've been in NFL meetings my whole life. I've been around these Neanderthals for a very long time. But this might be the smartest thing I heard. So Olin Kreutz was asked about the success or lack thereof for the Chicago Bears offense in the red area. And he said, the red zone is about players, not plays. And it got me thinking about why it's about players and not plays. Well, what's one thing we know about the red zone? It's a condensed part of the field. And people always talk about it's really hard to get guys open in the red zone because you're not working with a ton of field. If we go out into my back 40 in Virginia and I say, go get open, you're going to get open because I'm going to get tired and you're going to get open. But if we go out the little dog run in Manhattan, a little turf dog run, you ain't getting open, buddy. Okay, so that's the red zone. In order to get open, in order to make way, in order to Hodor, Game of Thrones style, shout out to Hodor, the ultimate O-lineman, you got to move some people. You got to be able to really get your freak on. You got to be a player. And when Olin Kreutz says it's about being a player, it's about the players, not the plays, it really resonates with me because it gets me thinking about breaking the huddle. It's third and goal on the 2-yard line, on the 3-yard line, and we got to run the football in. And you know what? My number was called in the huddle. We're going 95, okay, which means my B block on the backside. For those of you at home, 95. In my little translation thing, 9 means under center, okay, and then 5 means 5 hole, which means I'm not running around guys, I'm running through guys at the line of scrimmage, and that's where a player comes in, because any coach can call a 95, but it's players that make it. It's the center getting his hat across and finding a way to get his man off the line of scrimmage and gain ground with his second step and have it in the ground and be powerful. And the left tackle not getting beat inside and widening the play. It's the running back understanding why he's pressing where he's pressing and finishing with authority and low pads and falling forward for 3. It's the backside guard and the tackle dominating a man against his will and moving him out of his own real estate because it's ours now. And that's why it's players and not plays. And I thought it was a really evergreen thought, and I wanted to share it with you guys. And I'm sure we can have the same conversation about receivers as it pertains to getting open in the red area. And some guys being physically gifted, some guys being really crafty with their footwork. Players, not plays. It sticks out to me, and I'm interested to hear y'all's thoughts on that.
So I went and looked up the top 5 teams in red zone efficiency this season, and they each have a calling card that speaks to players and not plays in the red zone. Number 1 is the Eagles, obviously. They have the ultimate ace in the hole when it comes to red zone efficiency. You have the biggest offensive line in the NFL and a quarterback who squats 700 pounds. You can push him into the end zone, or you have Saquon Barkley to also get into the end zone. The second team is Washington, the Commanders. And it makes sense because Jaden Daniels is such a threat using his legs in the red zone that it creates problems. Not only, that's what I sort of see with players and not plays, because you create so many issues having a dude in the red zone that you can count on, that it creates other areas and openings, especially in a condensed area. The other 3 teams are Pittsburgh, Detroit, and Kansas City. They each have calling cards where, like, Pittsburgh's calling card is they have a 6'10", 300-pound center. They have Shaquille O'Neal playing tight end. Just throw a fade to him. And then Detroit has the obvious advantage of offensive linemen in the run game. And the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes and the creativity of Patrick Mahomes in the red zone. So it does come down to players and not plays. And I think the way I see it is the players help dictate what numbers and what adjustments you have to make as a defense. Because if you have a guy like Jaden Daniels, you're going to defend Jaden Daniels a lot differently than a guy like a less mobile guy in the red zone. You have to, because he's going to kill you in the red zone with his legs.
And I would even say, to Kyle's, I think, overarching point, players sometimes are your best offensive linemen. And if you watch the Bucs in short yardage, Bucs are running left. More often than not, we watch the Lions in short yardage, Lions are running right. You go behind the guy that you know is going to generate movement at the point of attack, because whether it's Penny Sewell for the Lions, whether it's Tristan Wirfs for the Bucs, you get movement. It doesn't matter if they know where it's going. If that double is taking a guy off the ball, you just run straight behind that double. If that double gets a guy 1 yard off the ball and you need 1 yard, you're getting the first down if the running back can just find that. So not only is it your skill position guys where, again, you're seeing a lot more man coverage in the red zone. And so when you see man coverage, even if they're getting doubled, you take your chance with the guy you know is going to win, as opposed to trying to scheme up the guy who may not be able to win one-on-one. So, yeah, it's for a lot of different reasons. It's a mindset that the best play callers in the NFL are very good at executing.
Yeah. And
one final anecdote, and then you go, JP. So I work with Antonio Pierce now. And the great thing about working with Antonio Pierce is he was from what I would consider to be a different era. The guy was born in 1977. Okay. And he played with Strahan, and he played with a number of greats, and he played against a guy by the name of Larry Allen, who, in my opinion, is the Shohei Ohtani of football. The guy was just that much better than everybody. And Larry Allen used to break the huddle and point to the ground next to his shoe. And the guys on defense would just know this is where the ball is going. And rookie year, Antonio Pierce said, he pointed to the ground. He said, I thought he was telling me that his shoelace was untied. Turns out he was coming for my ass. And he went and got him. And like the next time that Larry Allen pointed at the ground, AP made sure everybody understood the ball's coming here. And it's players, not plays. It doesn't matter what play we're running. The ball's coming here, buddy. Can you stop it? That's what's great about football.
Exactly. And I'm going back to the Steelers for this one, because the Steelers will tell you where the ball is going when they line up. Especially recently, they will line up Broderick Jones at left tackle. They'll play Spencer Anderson, their 6 offensive linemen, Darnell Washington, and Ben Skoranek all on one side. That's like 800 pounds of intensity and anger on one side of the line. They're telling you where the ball is going to go. It's now just on you to stop it. And I think that's the best. Like you said, it's the best part of football. We know what our plays are. We know what our strategy is. Now you have to go out and defend it.
All right, that was the Trench Take, sponsored by Nationwide. Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company. They're one of America's largest financial services companies, too. For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side. Nationwide Investment Services Corporation, member FINRA, Columbus, Ohio.
All right, JP, let's see the playbook.
All right, so speaking of getting bigger up front and playing an extra offensive lineman, let's go to Philadelphia. Let's talk about how the Eagles found their run game. 276 yards on the ground. Felt like we saw the old Eagles. And the way that they did it was they played an extra offensive lineman. We talked about at length how poorly the Eagles offense was playing in 12 personnel, how bad their tight ends were blocking, and it wasn't making sense for them to play their tight ends because they don't throw the ball to them. Well, now they just add a 6 offensive lineman on the field, and that's when you start to make a little bit more hay in the run game. So put a little more numbers behind it. The Eagles had 12 total snaps of 6 offensive linemen through the first 7 weeks of the season. This past week, they had 10 plays, including plays of 18 yards, 12 yards, and this 65-yard touchdown on the second play of the game. And this one is really cool because it shows you how teams are sort of forced into an issue against the Eagles, even when they're in 6 offensive linemen, obvious run sets. If you count how many players are in this box for the Giants, there's the edge, that's 1, 2 defensive tackles, 3, 4, 5, and there's 7 players in the box. That is a neutral box. They have 2 deep safeties because Devontae Smith is on the outside. The Eagles are forcing teams to play the numbers game, even with a 6 offensive linemen, because they can go play action and throw it over your head for an explosive pass. But now, because they can be so good in the run game with Fred Johnson on the field, they're just going to run duo here. They're going to run duo. They're getting a hat on the hat. They're getting double teams everywhere. And I love the vision and patience by Saquon Barkley to start one way, and then he just makes one cut. And it looks like Tyler Nubin is the backside safety. I don't think Tyler Nubin is expecting Saquon Barkley to cut this back. But even if you look at the still here, there's 2 lanes where you can obviously get 10 to 15 yards. When it's really good as a running back that you're able to pick your poison when it comes to choosing lanes. Saquon Barkley cuts this back. Tyler Nubin has no idea that he cuts it back, erases the angle, and we see 2024 Saquon Barkley. So I think for the Eagles to really find what works for this offense, I think adding a 6 offensive lineman is going to be really helpful for them. Against Minnesota, they had an explosive touchdown pass out of the 6 offensive lineman set. This week, they have an explosive run touchdown out of 6 offensive linemen. Keep building on that and make that your thing.
Okay, so when you're on the play side and you're a tight end, okay, so you said the cutback lanes. He's riding the wave there. That's what we used to call that, riding the wave. You press it, front side, leverage the linebackers, set up the down men on the line of scrimmage, set up their blocks, and then bend it back. If you've got a tight end who's struggling in the run game, particularly at the point of attack, you can't press it. You can't press it. It forces the cutback early. Everybody's block gets disjointed, and it sucks. It sucks. You put a 6 offensive lineman on the field, and that point of attack becomes firmer and more predictable. It's like the S&P 500, okay? You could just continue to throw money at it, and you'll be okay. You get that much more mass, that much more explosion on the front side. I don't care who you put out there. If it's a no lineman, it's going to be better than a tight end. I don't care, unless it's Rob Gronkowski, okay? And that's what Saquon understands here. He's got the confidence, being able to press it. And that cut is not predetermined. It's just built into what this is. If it looks the right way, we always said the front side is the back side. Yeah, you can get 4 to 5 yards on the front side, the right side of the screen. But if you want to hit your head on the goalposts, block your ass off on the back side and give your running back a chance.
The funny thing about like the Eagles and what they were doing is that their second and third tight ends are 240-pound wide receivers, basically. Grant Calcaterra and Kyle Granson were basically wide receivers. Both came out of SMU, both like glorified wide receivers in that offense. It was they weren't used as a wide. And those are the guys they're using or were using as like your blocking tight end. Grant Calcaterra's snap ratio of his 102 snaps this year, majority of them were run blocking snaps. Like he is not getting utilized as a passing game weapon. It's not a guy
That's
to like
brutal.
switch the field. He is like getting utilized as purely a blocking tight end in that offense. So I just think, yes, Fred Johnson compared to either of those two guys is such a massive upgrade. And Fred Johnson himself is kind of an ass kicker in the running game. Like if he just purely on like a double team, he may not be the most fleet of foot, but that guy can move the line of scrimmage. So getting someone like that out there, they need more of it. If you're the Eagles and you just saw what happened, like light bulbs should be going off to everyone in those game planning meetings that this is the path moving forward.
Explosive passing game about to go crazy off this.
Oh yeah. There's gonna be so many explosive passes. Again, they had one against Minnesota where Devontae Smith ran like a corner post, and the safety is coming down hard because there's 6 offensive linemen on the field, and you have to respect their run game. If you saw this game against the Giants, they unlocked a lot more play action by just being in bigger personnel and showing the illusion of the run game, even though they had Cam Latu and they had Calcaterra in the game. Those guys are not blockers per se. Cam Latu is their fullback. I think I've maybe seen him make one good block all year. It's using the illusion of the run. The Seahawks do it so well. They use the illusion of playing bigger guys, forcing you into run-heavy looks. Just throw the ball behind some over-aggressive linebackers. So I hope Kevin Patullo uses this game in the past 2 weeks to really figure out that having 6 offensive linemen on the field can be your superpower. The Bills last year had 6 offensive linemen on the field, and it was their superpower. They hauled ass in the run game. This is exactly what the Eagles should do moving forward because they have some of the best collection of offensive line talent in the NFL. Get your best players on the field.
And if you want to get to the keep game off of that as well, you can change the numbers even further. You put 6 offensive linemen on the field and let Jalen do a little bit of Jalening. That's crazy.
All right, so the second one here, we are actually going to talk about the Buffalo Bills running for an insane amount of yards. We talked about the Eagles running for 276 yards. That was first in the NFL and most in the NFL in a single week for any offense. Second was the Buffalo Bills this week against the Carolina Panthers. And what really stood out in this game was the fullback usage. Reggie Gilliam, one of the most underrated players on the Bills offense, because every time Reggie Gilliam is on the field, good things happen in the run game. And I actually thought they did some really cool stuff in this game to kind of take advantage of a 5-man front that really likes to read and react up front instead of playing super aggressive downfield. And because of that read and react nature, they were really able to hit them in a lot of different ways. This one was my favorite, though. It's James Cook's big touchdown run, his first touchdown run. And they're going to run counter out of this. But most teams, when they run counter, they're pulling the right guard and the fullback, or they're pulling right guard, right tackle, any combination. The Bills run basically HF counter, and they're getting man scheme, they're getting man blocking up front with the offensive line, but they're pulling the tight end off the ball and Reggie Gilliam. And I think it's really cool because you're able to get downhill, you're able to get gap scheme runs, but you're not showing a pulling guard, which is what every linebacker is key to read and be aggressive downhill. You're reading a pulling guard from the minute you start playing like Pop Warner football. So they're able to get this pulling guard, and Carolina's trying to run a stunt to the backside of this play where Deion Dawkins is. 98 is supposed to go back inside on this play because of how aggressive the 5 tech sort of rips to the outside. He never gets back to the inside. And what happens is because there is no pulling guard, 56 Roseboom is way too slow getting over this play. He's way too slow, and that allows for the center to just easily seal him off. Trevon Moehrig comes up, misses the tackle. James Cook is again able to just pick his poison, whichever area you want to run the ball. That looks like a pretty great hole to me. Like that looks like you kind of draw that up when you're watching the play, and James Cook is off to the races. He flips into the end zone. But I think this is something that the Bills can also lean on to be even more successful on the ground in the run game. In 21 personnel against Carolina, they averaged 8 yards per carry with 21 personnel. Like that's incredible. They averaged 6.5 yards before contact per carry. Like that's insane levels of just movement. So I think the Bills adding Reggie Gilliam onto the field is going to really help their run game, and it's going to really help them try and be more explosive as they try and add more chips to what's already a very good run game.
And I'll say this about pulling a tight end. I'm a big fan of it because, and Kyle, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong or add context to this. When you're pulling anyone going to the opposite side of the field, it's not like a movement block. It's not like you're trying to move a guy. So the fact
it's not a displacement block.
Displacement block. There, that's a better word. Thank you.
I mean, you can't get stonewalled. But
It's about squaring a guy up is more important than how
stop
big you
him.
are. So I want the guy who can move on a pull. You don't want the guy who's a plotter who, if he does square someone up, it's going to be a big block, but it's just really hard to square someone up when that someone is a linebacker who runs like a 4.5, right? So I want the guy who can actually mirror and square up a linebacker in the hole rather than to actually just get hat on a hat as opposed to the guy who might not get there in time. So I prefer the more athletic guys pulling rather than your plotting Osiris Torrance trying to come through that hole.
I would take the smarter of the two. Whichever of those guys, I understand and know as a coach that he will have his hat on the right side of the block. That is the most important thing, because when you get to that still frame, if you could pull up the second still frame of James Cook with all that room, back one slide. So the hats are on the right side here. Everybody's on the proper side. And now if you over leverage on, who is that, 33 there, 32? If you put your hat on the wrong side there, James Cook doesn't have anywhere to go. So while I do wholeheartedly agree, I want a guy that's not going to whiff based on his athleticism. If you tell me that there's a less athletic guy who really understands that slow is fast and being on the right side of the block is key, Matt Slauson was the veteran guard that I had, and I was too athletic to pull as a guard when I first started. I would sprint out of there like I was running the Daytona 500, man, and I would run right by guys. And Matt Slauson said, less is more, slow down, and be a freak at the point of attack. That's all you have to do. So if you can get on guys, that's 75% of the battle.
And it really stands out with the Bills, who they're asking to pull. Like we said, we talked about Reggie Gilliam, but the tight end in that play is Jackson Hawes, the rookie from Georgia Tech. They ask him to do so much in the run game. You could tell in this game against Carolina, they're asking him to base block defensive ends. He's reaching guys. He's basically their sixth offensive lineman. We talked about how the Bills sort of majored in that jumbo personnel last season. They took the six offensive linemen on the field and brought on a tight end that could actually like whoop ass in the run game. And that's helped them become more versatile. I think having Jackson Hawes and Reggie Gilliam on the field just makes so much sense for the other personnel that they have on the field, especially in their skill position group. And it just makes them even much more of a pain in the butt to defend.
I texted Aaron Cromer in September, and I was like, yo, I love this Hawes guy. He's fun. And he said, you just made my day. Hawes is the best blocking tight end I've had in years. Animal. I'm like, if you get the animal stamp of approval from Aaron Cromer, expect to be featured, expect to be on the field a whole lot. And that's what they've gotten out of him. They must just make tough guys at Georgia Tech, because I watch this guy Haynes King on the flight every week. All right. Haynes King, I might get a Haynes King Georgia Tech jersey.
It's going to go platinum in like 10 years. The Haynes King Georgia Tech jersey is going to be a real like ball knower test. Like, where were you when Haynes King was running wild? They got a guy there at right guard, Keelan Rutledge, and he had a game a couple weeks ago where his nose is just straight up broken. Like blood coming from the nose down the jersey. They're wearing the white jerseys. He's like, coach, put me back in. And I'm like, that's a guy that I want on the team. I want somebody that's gonna really wants to play ball.
Playbook and trench take today got me fired up. That little counter talk, little red zone weapons out of the offensive line talk. Good stuff, fellas. All right. It's got me fired up to now maybe get you guys a little depressed, because we're going to talk this quarterback class where, if you haven't thought about it in a while or haven't heard about it in a while, all you heard was maybe Dan Orlovsky on like draft night say, hey, wait for next year's quarterback class or whatever he tweeted out, because he did something like that. And everyone was gassing it up. There was Arch coming out. There was Lenora Sellers, this freak from South Carolina. There was Drew Aller, 6'5", 240.
Oh, no.
None of those guys we're going to talk about here because none of those guys are going to factor in this quarterback class, in my opinion. Lenora Sellers may still declare. I doubt it, though. But it's still better than last year's class. I want to stop and say real quick, like the people that get upset about the fact that people say that, hey, next year's class, quarterback class is going to be better. And like lament that and say like people say that every year. It's like, no, on average, people say that 50% of the years because 50% of the time is true. That's just how this stuff works. And this class is better than last year's class. There are actually going to be more quarterbacks than just Cam Ward and Jackson Dart going round one, in my opinion. I think we end up seeing 3. It obviously is going to depend on who declares, but let's get to them. Tier 1. These are the guys that are the front runners to be number 1 overall picks. I think there's a chance both could still play their way into that status. I think at worst, these guys are going to be first rounders. One may not declare. We'll see. But it's Fernando Mendoza of Indiana and Dante Moore of Oregon. Mendoza is a Cal transfer. Moore was a UCLA transfer. He sat behind Gabriel last year after starting his freshman year at UCLA. Mendoza's been starting. This is his 3rd year as a starter. And 2 different types of quarterbacks. With Mendoza, you're much more of a pocket passer, a timing rhythm passer who is going to protect the football. He's going to be efficient. He has the arm to attack anywhere on the football field. But I think the biggest selling point that I feel good about Mendoza translating, 2 big things. One is he played at Cal last year. And if you watch that Cal offensive line, you know that guy's already like battle tested. He already knows what it feels like to be behind a bad NFL offensive line. And he kept his head above water. It wasn't elite quarterbacking play or elite numbers, but the fact that he still averaged like 270 something yards a game is admirable given the task he had week in and week out. And now you've seen with actual talent around him, with a couple NFL offensive linemen, with definitely a couple NFL wide receivers at Indiana. Guy's a 24-1 touchdown to interception ratio, 4th lowest turnover worthy play rate in the country, according to PFF, and a pressure to sack conversion rate under 10%. If you're under 10%, that's an elite figure. That's where guys like Jordan Love, Pat
Pressure to
Mahomes
sack. That's not one I've ever really thought about, but that's one that's really important. Like when the pressure's there, you're getting rid of the football and you're getting it to the right people, or you're dirting it.
And it's especially important for stylistically guys who are pocket passers. If you are a guy who extends plays, you can get a higher pressure to sack conversion rate and not be as worried about it, because basically they can create when nothing's there. They don't have to dirt the ball when pressure comes. They can actually make positive plays out of it. Mendoza's not really that guy. That's probably the biggest sticking point if you're talking about number 1 overall pick with Fernando Mendoza. It's that when pressure comes, his answer is to either throw the football away or, try, a safer sort of throwaway-ish type of throw where he's throwing it to receiver, but it's still kind of a throwaway. He's not a guy who's going to evade, break out of the pocket. Now, we can throw on the move. I think he's very good at throwing on the move, but he's not, athletically wise, he just doesn't fit kind of the mold of what we've seen at the quarterback position, drafted highly in recent years. Doesn't mean he can't be successful at the next level. Moore, on the other hand, for sure does. He is a heck of an athlete. Beautiful throwing motion. I keep saying his throwing motion reminds me of Jaden Daniels. That's obviously a very good thing. It's just aesthetically damn near perfect.
Quick, efficient,
easy, every level of the football field, good arm. But he hasn't played a ton of football. Started not even a full season as a freshman. Last year off, he's a true junior, I guess redshirt sophomore, and we're only halfway through this season. So he's, he had a tough game against Indiana, had a good game against Penn State, but he'll have a bunch more tests to pass before we're really talking about him as a top 5 pick. But you see the talent is so obvious with this guy. It's really just like everything you could want. He has, takes care of the football, high level throws, 4th in turnover, only 4 turnover-worthy plays, and he's 7th in big-time throws in the country this year, according to PFF. So a good combination to have. But again, like if I had to draft, one right now and say who's definitely going to be there at the end, it's Mendoza, because Moore could realistically still come back to school. The NIL money with how little football he's played, with how much NFL teams covet now, how much football you've played.
Yes.
There's a chance that he could. But these two guys, to me, are the cream of the crop.
I love Fernando Mendoza. I said back in April he was my QB1 going into the season. He's probably going to run the table as QB1 for me. And the reason I love watching him play so much is because he knows where he's going with the ball. Like, you could show him anything pre-snap versus post-snap, and he just knows where to attack downfield. His ball placement on a lot of downfield passes, you'll see him layer throws downfield where it's like, oh, that's like an NFL caliber throw. And it just reminds me of a lot of the pocket passers we have in the NFL right now. Not sort of the uber creative, like the elite guys like the Mahomes, Josh Allen, but like, I'm not saying this to say he is going to be this player in the NFL, but it's sort of similar to Jared Goff in just the way that he's able to just layer and attack downfield within the pocket. He just knows where he's going with the ball. Both Cal guys, at least Mendoza's for a former Cal guy, but Fernando Mendoza doing this at Cal and Indiana, I think that's all you really got to say for a guy that knows how to play winning football. And I think that any team's going to be really lucky to get him. I am super intrigued by Dante Moore and just his poise in the biggest moments. He never is fazed by pressure. He's never really he's always willing to step into those big moments. Like you said, the release, the motion when he throws he throws a beautiful ball, especially downfield. He connects on seam shots to Kenyon Sadiq really well. I'm really excited to see how both these guys sort of jockey for QB1.
Number one, this makes me feel better about that Oregon-Indiana game because if I was watching QB1, then my eyes did not deceive me because I was frustrated with the defense, but you can't defend a perfect ball. Who was that said that? John Elway, Peyton Manning, somebody, one of these guys who was in Canton in bronze.
It's just true.
God said it. You can't defend a perfect pass, and this feels like a guy that makes perfect passes, and like the rush could be inches from him, and the ball will be out and will be on time and be in the right spot. To your point, layering the football, knowing when to put pace on it, take a little bit off. That's a huge part of the game. The thing that stands out to me about him, Fernando, was his post-game interview. And one thing I love about watching the quarterback position is finding out about personality types. And he seems like a really easygoing, fun guy to be around. And he strikes me as somebody that you would want to protect like hell because, to your point, he's not the archetype physically to be like, oh, he's an Adonis. Like, no, like he is a quarterback, bro. He is as quarterback as it gets. Pocket guy. And I think winning at Indiana is will weigh heavy on people. Like when he sits down at meetings in the pre-draft process, he is going to be as impressive as anybody. And when I think about guys who have like levity built into their personality, I saw it from Mendoza in the interview. Drake May, it's another one of those guys where it's like, oh man, like, hey man, best fans in the world, man. This is awesome. Just happy to be here. Fernando's got a little bit of that aw shucks about him, but I think he's also a killer.
I'm actually glad you brought May because I didn't quite finish my point, but when I watch quarterback prospects, there's two avenues, two areas where I have to see a guy do well to feel good about him translating to the NFL that aren't really that don't show up in his stat sheet because they aren't necessarily things that all college quarterbacks have to do. And Drake May did them extremely well, even if his stats weren't great. And they are how you handle pressure in terms of your ability to maintain the progression. Does pressure take you out of the progression altogether? Does it drop your eyes? Does it turn you into basically a scrambler? And one of the big so I thought Drake May did this extremely well, but someone who does it on the opposite side, not well at all, is Justin Fields. The amount of times you see Justin Fields just maintain the progression under pressure is very low. He turns into a runner. He turns into a guy who has to then create outside of structure once pressure hits. It's fine. It's just hard to maintain at the NFL level, given how often you're going to be playing from collapsing pockets. And I think Mendoza does that extremely well. The other one is how you throw into tight windows. Because again, you can put up gaudy stats at the collegiate level, just throwing to open receivers if you're on a talented enough football team. If you have dudes, if you have a high-end schemer at OC, if you have that, you don't necessarily have to throw into tight windows. With Mendoza, he did not have that at Cal. So when you saw him have to throw like a seam ball where, say, the linebacker is inside leverage on a tight end, he was putting it consistently outside shoulder of the tight end. He does that on a consistent basis.
Friendly balls.
He takes guys away from coverage with his throws. That's something that not all quarterbacks quite grasp at the collegiate level. And again, you can look awesome. You can put up Zach Wilson stats and never have to show that ability at the collegiate level. So I want to see those throws from a guy and how he handles them, where he's targeting them. That tells you a lot about what he's going to look like when he has to make those throws at the NFL level, because like I said, you can get away from it in college. You can't in the NFL. You can't just throw to open guys in the NFL and put up good stats. So with Mendoza, you've seen those two things already. He's been excellent at them. And when you see those two things, you feel good. Now, not to say he's going to be a surefire stud at the NFL level, but this guy can start. I think he has a really high floor. And because of that, given the desperation of some of these teams that are going to be drafted in there, this guy's going to go top 5. Woo! All right, tier 2. And I could honestly call this a tier 1B, because I think this guy is that close. It's just he has played far and away the least amount of football of anyone on this list, and it's Ty Simpson of Alabama. I continually am impressed by how advanced this guy is for this being his very first year as a starter. He sat behind Jalen Milroe for a couple of years there. He only has 362 dropbacks in his whole collegiate career. But when you look at the little things to his game, the ball handling, the footwork, the things that, usually take time to develop over the course of someone's career, he's got it. He already has it. And he already looks like he could play at the NFL level because of it. He kind of reminds me of like a souped up version of Mac Jones, because they're about the same size, 6'2", 208 is what he's listed at, but much stronger arm. I mean, just this past week against South Carolina, he uncorked one damn near 70 yards end to end, and much better athlete. I mean, he's not a great athlete, but I think he has much more of the nimbleness to evade than Mendoza has on tape. Not near what Dante Moore has, but it can be a value add in that ability. So what we've seen from already, 8.4 yards per attempt, 20-1 touchdown to interception ratio, 67.8 completion percentage. And unlike Mendoza and Moore, and not to like gas the SEC up, but SEC defenses week in and week out, you're just facing tougher defenses. He's already faced Georgia. He's already faced Tennessee. He's already faced South Carolina. He's already faced Missouri. These are tough defenses, and he has not gone in the tank against any of them. He has continually not made the big mistake, not taken the big sack, things that like he has led this team consistently. So again, it's early, so little football, but I think I'm willing to put all three of these guys, willing to bet that all three end up being first round picks when they declare. Now, Moore and Simpson could come back to school, but Simpson is about to turn 23 in December. So given what he's put on tape already, if he's considered a first rounder, I'd probably recommend he go to the NFL. But I think all three of these guys, I feel confident about what they could be at the next level.
And the thing that stands out with Ty Simpson is the growth that he's had this year. First game against Florida State, he looked kind of like a deer in headlights. Mm-hmm. And we all remember that Florida State game. We thought it was like, oh, the Florida State's back. Like, oh, Alabama's really in trouble. But the growth that he's shown as a passer, the aggression in the middle of the field is really what kind of stands out to me, because a lot of quarterbacks do not like throwing in those murky areas where there's a lot more defenders. You have to be on point. You got to be on time with the ball in the middle of the field. Ty Simpson is willing to take those chances. He's willing to throw with nice ball placement in the middle of the field. And I really do think he's sort of like tailor-made, like fit for a Shanahan like offense or McVay style of offense, where you can use his mobility, his movement skills, the attacking over the middle of the field. I think he's perfect for that. And he's really played really well this season to me. And it looks like we're going to have like a QB like 1A, 1B, 1C going into this draft cycle, which is really fun.
I'm just thinking about teams I'm just trying to play matchmaker, while listening to you guys talk about these young studs at the quarterback position. And
matchmaking young studs, nice.
That's my website, matchmakingyoungstuds.com. You can find me there all week. No, seriously, because there's a handful of teams who have gotten it right and have their guys, but then you mention a guy like Zach Wilson, and I just, I go in the tank of like how many of these young guys can get it done, and which of these guys are doing the right things right. And you talk about the progression that Ty Simpson's made. And I remember back to that first week and being like, oh, man, Nick Saban's going to, take the headset, like you put the headset on, take the IFB out and go coach. But quarterbacks make it right for guys. So for Ty Simpson, that's awesome. I got to watch him more. He seems like a fun player to watch.
If I were matchmaking right now, ideally, say like all the head coaching staff stay in place, we don't get much movement. And how the draft order is right now, it's New Orleans, Jets, Browns are like the 3 quarterback need teams. That's the order they're drafting in. I would probably go Mendoza to the Saints, Moore to the Jets, and Simpson to the Browns, just in terms of like ideal fits for each team and each quarterback. But
Kellen Moore was kind of limited physically as well too, so I feel like him and Mendoza would hit it off because like I feel like Moore was a pocket guy.
Yes, and Mendoza is through and through. So we'll see. We got a lot of time, but those are 1 and 2. After that, it's like, we're going to wait a while. I don't even know if I'd call these guys day 2 quarterbacks this next tier. I could even call it like tier 4. They are, you draft them in the 4th, 5th, 6th round. And maybe I'm being a little harsh here on Garrett Nussmeier to put him in this tier and put him that low, because he has been dealing with like a torso injury. And I think that's why his arm just looks truly bad this year. I mean, the velocity, the MPH on his throws it was already bad to begin with. Like he was not a physically gifted guy. That was not why you got excited about him. But if a minor injury can take that off of him, like that's worrisome. That's, if you're talking about a starter at the NFL level, there's a reason why it's physical tools first for a lot of evaluators, because when you have Brock Purdy level physical tools, it can be very difficult, and you got to be in a pretty good situation. Or Mac Jones level physical tools, as we've seen, it can be tough to be consistently good at the NFL level. Not to say that they can't play. We're seeing Mac Jones obviously play effectively in San Francisco, but you need the right situation, the right offense to do it. So that's why Garrett Nussmeier ends up here. I'll throw in Cade Klubnik of Clemson, Taylon Green of Arkansas, and then Trinidad Chambliss of Ole Miss, who just keeps kind of balling. He's the one kind of outlier in that he's kind of got a cannon on this. The other guys don't really have strong arms. They're kind of middling to lower end arms for Klubnik and Green. But Chambliss can really rip it. He's short. 6 foot, 200. Listed at 6 foot means probably like 5'11". But I've been super impressed with what he's done in this Ole Miss offense this season.
I feel like Trinidad Chambliss would go so much higher if Kyler Murray had actually like worked out like
any of these guys
in the NFL. If Kyler Murray was a legitimate like superstar in the NFL, Trinidad Chambliss is going like round 1 easily. He's such a battery pack of explosiveness, whether it be with his arm, whether it be with his legs. He's just such a really fun player. And he's really cool to watch because you've seen him grow since becoming the starter at Ole Miss. Taylon Green's going to be everybody's favorite project. He's like 6'6", like 230, and can move. Like legitimately, you can design run game stuff for him. Garrett Nussmeier is fascinating because I do think that the torso injury has really sapped his arm strength. But this isn't the first time that he's had like an injury that saps his arm strength. And my thing is like, he's not that big. Like he keeps taking like Wile E. Coyote hits and constantly like the Texas A&M game was rough because like he's getting up and he's constantly limping. He's been limping since like the first game of the season. So you worry about how many hits his body can take, but the dude knows ball. The dude has seen a lot of football, son of a coach. He knows football, but you just worry about the hits his body can take. And then sometimes he just throws a lot of passes that his arm just can't cash. Like he is the it's Garrett Nussmeier time. Like he goes into Garrett Nussmeier time a whole lot when it's just like you don't need to do that right now.
Yeah, if he had, if you had Trinidad Chambliss as physical tools, we'd be talking about a generational prospect here in Garrett Nussmeier. Probably like that. He's that good at quarterbacking, and he could end up. I mean, he could end up like a Mac Jones. Like he truly, like that's the career he could have, where he puts together some seasons when he's in the right spot and there's talent around him. But realistically, if you were to redraft Mac Jones, he's not going top 15. He's going 4th round. And I think that's where Garrett Nussmeier ultimately probably ends up, unfortunately, at this point. All right, then just to touch on these two guys, because to me, they're not draft prospects. But Carson Beck, Drew Aller, they're just, it's over. It's unfortunately back. His arm has taken a hit from the surgery, offseason surgery he had. He's already kind of limited in terms of pure pocket passer. And then he goes in the tank once every seemingly good defense he faces turns him into jello the past couple of years. So out on Beck, Drew Aller just
the tats look sick though, Beck. The tats look sick.
And then Aller's like, he can't hit the broadside of a barn. The last year, he has not been able to. I hope he gets a 5th year, honestly. I hope he gets another year of eligibility, because if he were to come out, because he has to, unless he gets an injury waiver, it's just late day 3 at best. And then I just want to touch on a few more guys who are intriguing, but I would recommend all come back to school, given NIL money, given where they'll probably be drafted. But I have liked what I've seen in some way, shape, or form from all of these guys. I'm not saying they're going to be first rounders or anything, but very intrigued by what they put on tape. John Mateer from Oklahoma, Jade Mayava from USC, Josh Hoover from TCU, Brendan Sorsby from Cincinnati. I think that's kind of like a tier 1-ish of these intriguing guys, like those guys I could all see being first rounders 2027. And then it's Nico Iamaleava, Sam Levitt, and then Darren Mensah from Duke, Iamaleava from UCLA, Levitt from Arizona State. All intriguing in some way, shape, or form. The first two because they're very physically gifted. Mensah because he's playing just good-ass football at Duke after transferring from Tulane, but not nearly the physical talent of the other guys on this tier.
It's sort of funny.
Bryson Barnes, put him on your list. The Utah State quarterback. That guy's fun to watch, bro. And with everything that teams do with low red area and quarterbacks keeping it, like go watch Bryson Barnes. He's fun.
It's sort of fun watching John Mateer and Josh Hoover, not even add Sam Levitt into this, because there's going to be like 5 or 6 plays a game. I'd even say like there's going to be like a stretch of like a quarter where they just like brain empty. Like nothing's going on up there. They're just out there doing stuff. And that can be like to the benefit of an offense. That can also be to the detriment of an offense where they're just like, you know what? No play is going, just vibes. But they all have like the requisite athletic talent to sort of make stuff happen in those scenarios. So I think they need to come back next year so they can just reduce some of those brain empty moments where you can see like with John Mateer, you can see him just go like, nope, no thinking right now. We're just gonna go play ball.
Autopilot is what we called it as offensive linemen. When you would get out of your game plan, when you would not be focused on the little techniques, that's like autopilot. You do not. If you go on autopilot, you better make sure that you've programmed it the right way.
He's the guy in the band who thinks every time he plays is a guitar solo, and it's like you don't need to do the guitar solo now. Just follow the music. And then we'll have your guitar solo in here somewhere. But he thinks every time he plays, it's a guitar solo.
Yeah, Mateer, Sorsby, and Levitt are like one big Spider-Man. They're all like the same guy. And Hoover's like close. Hoover's just not as big. Because all those other guys, like Mateer, Sorsby, Levitt, they're all kind of built like running backs. They all turn into running backs at certain points in time when you watch them on tape. And they all just kind of like have this easy rotational throwing motions with like big arms. But you hit the nail on the head. Like they all have bouts of just what are they doing, but all very intriguing prospects. And then the last tier here is just like, come back to school. Please come back to school. It's Lenora Sellers, Arch Manning. I think they could at some point be number 1 overall picks. These guys are unbelievably physically gifted. They have almost everything you could want at the quarterback position. They're just not playing the quarterback position well. They're just big holes in their game right now when you watch them on tape that, I think either if they declared would get drafted fairly highly, like maybe not as high as guys in the tier 1, like Mendoza, Moore, Simpson, but I think both of them would go before the next tier of Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik, Taylor Green, just because of what they could be. But I think both would be so much better served to not only come back next year, like you got 2 more years of eligibility, both these guys. Use it up, improve at the collegiate level. I think someday we'll be talking about them as high-end prospects. It just ain't this year, in my opinion.
It wouldn't surprise me if either one or both those guys do end up transferring. Like I think Lenore Sellers probably should transfer.
Yes, should.
Because that offense is just entirely unsustainable. Yeah. And it's hurting the development of a guy who is still 20 years old. Like it's important to remember that his birthday he's not just a 2005 baby. He was born in the summer of 2005. Yeah. Like he's a June birthday. So like he is still legitimately 20 years old. Like
they both, if they both came out, they would be 20 years old undrafted when they got drafted this year. So
that's insane. And I think sort of what has happened with Anthony Richardson and the Colts is going to change a lot of teams' perspectives on the QB situation and the QB prospect when it comes to development, because not a lot of teams have time to wait for a guy to get reps and to fail. So this is what the college level is for. I think Lenore Sellers does need to transfer. Arch Manning, I would be genuinely shocked if he did transfer, but quietly, Texas's offensive line does not have the same caliber of athletes as it did in previous years. Yeah. And if the whole like Sark to Tennessee thing, like the Titans thing is still like in the air, like if that's legit, I can see him transferring.
And if you're Lenore Sellers, the transfer list, the schools you should be looking at, just go watch the Joe Moore Award. Just go to the finalists, see who returns the most guys. That's probably where you should be going next year, because his offensive line at South Carolina is just god awful. Whew. Tough. All right. We're going to take a quick break. After that, our mid-season NFL awards coming up next.
You can't count on Derek's tongue skills.
Oh, Tony, I think it hit the ground.
But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount+.
Comeback player of the year, where preseason the predictions were. Me and JP said Aiden Hutchinson. Kyle said CJ Stroud, and it's unanimous at this point. We're all going Aiden Hutchinson, your NFL pressure leader with 48 pressures, even though he's had a bye. Anyone else who's even like factoring in here?
I think the only person that really factors in is Christian McCaffrey, just for the sheer volume of touches that he's had and keeping the 49ers offense afloat. But you just sort of worry that late down the line this season, a lot of those games where he goes for like 30 touches, you're going to miss some of those games because of injury. But Aiden Hutchinson has been incredible, coming back from a catastrophic leg injury where it looks like he has come back with even more fluidity, which I think is super impressive. And he is the engine of a Detroit defense that really has really needed him with all the injuries, Brian Branch being suspended for a game, with all the guys being out in the secondary. They have relied on Aiden Hutchinson to kind of mask a lot of their issues. So I think he's going to win comeback player of the year, but CMC is going to get real close.
If I can't give it to Daniel Jones, I'll give it to Aiden Hutchinson because he is unbelievable.
We got to have like
this is our annual conversation of, can Sam Darnold win it? Can Daniel Jones win it? There needs to be an award for that. But yeah, Aiden Hutchinson, without a doubt, guy's unbelievable. And I think the sack numbers are going to take a huge jump here in the second half of the season. We talked about the timetable for a guy coming back from something like that. It may look like he's 100%, but he's not 100% yet, which is scary for everybody else watching.
Christian McCaffrey, interesting note, he is on pace to break the running back single season receiving yards record. That happens. I think it's a conversation, but that's only because he's also on pace to get like the most targets for running back ever by like 20. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure he's like leading the 49ers in targets too.
Yeah, it's nuts. All right, offensive rookie of the year, another unanimous one here.
Man, didn't see this one coming.
Kyle, cover the ears. It's Tyler
Didn't
Warren.
see this one coming.
Oh wait, I thought it was. Is that Colson Loveland?
Tyler Warren is living every kid's dream as like a football player.
Yeah. Like
every kid grows up being like, I want to do this, and then I want to do that, and then I want to do that. I want to play running back. I want to play receiver. I want to block. I want to play fullback. I want to do all this stuff in the offense. and Tyler Warren is actually doing it in real life. So it's been really fun seeing how he sort of blends sort of the offense together, because I think the difference between last year's offense in Indy and this year's offense, outside of the quarterback playing more on time, is Tyler Warren is blending the short yardage, the short area stuff after the catch with all the stuff that Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman Jr. can do in the intermediate areas with the separation Josh Downs gets. He is the one that sort of blends everything together. He is not the star, but he is the one piece that really makes the offense go. He's like the glue guy on every basketball team. Everybody needs like Shane Battier, and it feels like Tyler Warren is like the super Shane Battier for the Colts offense. Yes,
he's the Draymond of the Colts offense,
dude. 100%, but like way more skilled than Draymond. No offense. Hey, Draymond. No offense, bro.
He's coming for you. Preseason, I went Ashton Genty, Kyle went Jackson Dart, JP went Travis Hunter. Dart feels like he's got an outside shot of like actually winning at the end. I wouldn't put
especially now without Scatterboo. We're gonna have to really see what Jackson Dart can do. But I mean, let's be honest, it's Tyler Warren and the tight end position. After what a weekend for tight ends. Travis Kelce still doing it. Zach Ertz caught his 800th ball for the first down, by the way, which wasn't a first down, but it was a first down. And then you get guys like Brock Bowers last year and then Tyler Warren this year. The torch has been passed, and we're watching it. There's a number of guys who I didn't name, but tight end, such an important position. So much of what the coordinators are doing is predicated on having a guy at the tight end position who could do a number of things.
I still think there's a world where T-Mac gets back involved in this, given he's top 10 receiving yardage right now in the NFL. And he's just good. And now they have Jalen Coker.
He plays in Carolina, bro. That's the problem.
It is a problem. That does not help. Let's flip the sides. Defensive Rookie of the Year. Our first non-unanimous one preseason. We were unanimous. We went Abdul Carter. But I'm flipping mine. I think Will Johnson right now, the Arizona Cardinals cornerback, and yeah, he's missed a couple games, but he's been so good for rookie corner. A position that has not been easy to really translate to the NFL in recent years. Haven't had a ton of overnight successes at it. He is one. 15 to 26 targets this year, only 119 yards allowed. That's less than 5 yards per target. An elite figure, 5 pass breakups already. I just think he's been so good when healthy for this Cardinals D that moves the needle just a little bit over Abdul Carter, just because Abdul Carter's not like a full-time player still for the Giants. He might be like the best, and I obviously thought he was the best coming out, but it's hard to give him the nod when he's just this part-time pass rusher for the Giants.
I love the pick of Will Johnson because, as you know, the secondary is not my forte. It's not where my eyes gravitate towards when I watch football. I'm a line of scrimmage guy, and at the line of scrimmage, Abdul Carter's pretty darn good, but the other guy that I would give a tip of the cap to would be Carson Schlesinger from the Cleveland Browns, but he got banged up this past week, so I hope Carson's okay. That would be my dark horse if we were trying to mix it up here, but it's going to be Abdul Carter, and I just feel like he's going to get better and better. They're going to use him more. The guy is elite. He's an elite player, and he may not have the production that guys like Myles Garrett have or guys like Aiden Hutchinson have week in, week out. But I'll tell you what, the hours, the manpower it takes to try to account for this guy is very real, and it has an effect on opposing offenses.
I also went Abdul Carter, but I do think Schlesinger is a really good shout. I almost wanted to go Schlesinger for this award, but I think when you look back on Defensive Rookie of the Year and off-ball linebackers winning it, the only two that come to mind post-2010 are Luke Kuechly and Darius Leonard. Darius Leonard had 4 forced fumbles, two interceptions. He had 163 tackles. Luke Kuechly had over 160 tackles. He had the interceptions. And Schlesinger is on pace for 136 tackles, and that's without the threat of missing time with injury. He got a high ankle sprain that he's dealing with. So I just think he's going to fall a little bit off the pace that those guys set before him, which is why I went Abdul Carter, because you can tell when Carter's on the field, the Giants' pass rush changes. Like it's like another piece of just energy. hits the field when he's on the field. Just the force that he plays with. The stuff
Goes from a V6 to a V8, that rush package.
Yes, and some of the stuff that he was giving Lane Johnson a few problems on Sunday. I was like, okay, you know what? I wasn't expecting this. Like, nope, nobody. You've seen few people really give Lane Johnson like legitimate issues, but Abdul Carter has a couple nice pass rush reps. The way they move him around is really fun, and like I said, with the way that he plays and the way that they operate when he's on the field versus when he's off, I think he's going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year based on that.
All right, let's get to Offensive Player of the Year. Mid-season. Preseason, we went Jamar Chase. I did. Kyle went Jamar Chase. JP went Bijan Robinson. We're switching those now. JP, where are we going?
I am going with Jonathan Taylor. I still think he should be a legitimate case for MVP. I would argue that in a world where like we don't have like quarterbacks as the most valuable player, if we had like a most outstanding player, Jonathan Taylor's winning that award this year for most outstanding player. But he is he's having the Saquon Barkley year last year where like every time he touches the ball, it's a big play. Every time he touches the ball, it's an explosive. And he's on pace for some really incredible numbers. He's on pace for the touchdown record, which is going to be really impressive if he does break it. And with the way that they run that offense through him and what the offense was supposed to be with Daniel Jones as a quarterback, I think Jonathan Taylor is right now, like, I wouldn't say he's running away with it because we're going to get to another guy that's playing really well, but Jonathan Taylor's got to be the odds-on favorite.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor. I mean, this award is the Heisman Award for the NFL, right? We've talked about like having an NFL Heisman Award. It's just who was greatest. Jonathan Taylor's great. I mean, that's everything you want in a running back right there. And he's done it all season long. And I think the story of Indianapolis as well plays into it. It has to play into it. I mean, if you're not sold enough on the production week in, week out, the explosive ability of Jonathan Taylor, then just go watch the team that he's playing for. It's the Colts, and it's a special season. And this is his award.
I'm going to go a little different. I am going to go with Jackson Smith-Njigba. I mean, you're splitting hairs. They're both like literally the engines, the thing that drives their offenses. They are at two different positions, about as valuable as you can be to their respective offenses, as you know we've seen in recent years, truly. But Jackson Smith-Njigba, because he is doing record-breaking stuff at the receiver position. He is 46.3% now of the Seahawks passing yardage this season. That's the highest we've seen from a receiver since 2001. That's top 3 all time.
Who was it in 2001?
David Boston.
Wow.
Best ever, though, was Isaac Bruce, 1996. Had almost 48.37%. Insane stuff that the company he's in terms of just fueling. And it's not only like, it's easy to, David Boston wasn't part of like this high-end passing offense. He's fueling what is one of the most efficient passing offenses in the NFL. And it's going exclusively through him. 74.6 completion percentage or reception rate on a 13.0 average depth of target. Insane stuff, insane efficiency, 809 yards, 19 yards in seven games, on pace for almost 2,000 yards receiving this season. I just think he moves the needle in a little bit more of a big play because they don't have the bevy of weapons that the Colts have. The Colts, Jonathan Taylor is kind of one of many there, and it works because there's so many threats. There's not another threat, and yet JSN's still doing it for the Seattle Seahawks. So it's splitting hairs to me. I think I'm not going to argue against Jonathan Taylor. He's exceptional, but I just think Jackson Smith-Njigba, what he's doing right now is a little bit different, a little bit more rare than what we've seen Jonathan Taylor do so far this season. But both guys having elite seasons at their respective position.
So you said 2001 David Boston was like the target share god?
Because they had almost identical, 46.3%. Same.
It's crazy because he got drafted as the 8th overall pick in the 99 draft. He had a car accident that caused nerve damage and 2000, and then that record-breaking season in 01. David Boston was like,
dude, and then he got huge. He
could have been
was
one of
the
these
original juice.
Laurent Landry picks, like big arm up to here.
He just got way too damn big, but he was nice in his day. All right,
he's too damn big.
Defensive Player of the Year. Predictions preseason. Kyle went Micah Parsons. I went Kalijah Cansey. Oof. JP went Will Anderson Jr. Kyle, who are we going with now?
I'm going to go with Aiden Hutchinson. And I think that with what I said earlier about him improving even more physically as the season goes on, and the way that this Detroit offense has looked at times this season, their ability to score points and score points fast, Aiden Hutchinson is going to have a ton of opportunities to rush the passer. And I know he's got 6 sacks right now, but we could be looking at 12 sacks in 3 weeks. I mean, sacks come in bunches. I was raised by a Hall of Fame sack getter, and my older brother is one of those, I'll use the phrase jerks that play the pass rush position. And when you get one, there's 2 more coming, and there's 3 more coming. And if you're on your P's and Q's like Aiden Hutchinson is, you'll get them. So I know Myles Garrett's been unbelievable, and there's a number of guys who are in this conversation. But I think Aiden Hutchinson, in context with what he dealt with last year, comeback player of the year, defensive player of the year, and maybe some other hardware.
I am going with Nick Bonito for mine. And just the stats. Like, I know we like say like, oh, we watch the games and we watch Nick Bonito. He is a force, but the stats back that up. He's tied for first in the NFL in quick pressures. He has a 24% pressure rate, like, which is unbelievable at this point in the season. And he is the fulcrum and sort of the engine for a Broncos defense that is still the best in the league. I know he has Pat Surtain playing corner, and I know that's probably going to take a little bit from him, but he is playing at an incredibly high level. His speed changes how offenses play the game because he's not only fast up the field around the corner, but he's also fast to the inside. It changes how you block him. It changes how the Broncos can play defense because your defensive tackles can get late pressures. Their defensive tackles can get like cleanup sacks just off of pressures where Nick Bonito is forcing guys up into the pocket. And because of how fast he is, because of how quick he is, Vance Joseph can do a lot of cool stuff in the backfield, in the secondary with zone coverage. Because the clock, we talked about like the sonic drowning theme. That's what you're playing when you're playing the Broncos. Like you don't have a lot of time because Bonito's right there, and he's going to have some more monster stats for a Broncos defense that is playing at an incredibly high level. I'm still holding out a little hope for Will Anderson Jr. because with all the stats that we mentioned, quick pressures, pressure rate, Will Anderson Jr. has a 20.2% pressure rate, 19 quick QB pressures, which is tied with Nick Bonito. And the Texans defense, if they just win a few more games, if they just start winning a few more high-profile games, if you just even taste like in the hunt for the playoffs, I could see Will Anderson Jr. getting votes, but I'm going to go with Nick Bonito for mine.
You know who Nick Bonito reminds me of, guys? And I'm just talking about movement, like the threat of speed. Robert Quinn had a get-off that threatened you in such a way that it changed the entirety of how you played the game. Now, the one guy who did have a rock-solid game plan we talked about was Andrew Thomas. He let him go upfield. He was like, the only way I'm not going to lose is inside. I'm okay with getting beat upfield. That's got to be the plan you have when you play against those guys. And Vance Joseph has to have so much fun with all the toys that he has.
All right, here's the thing. You guys know it. Every other offensive coordinator in the NFL knows it. The best player is Myles Garrett. It's Myles Garrett. But what are we doing here? If everyone knows it. It's Myles Garrett. I know that they're not.
Don't say his name 3 times in a row. He will show up and he will kill you.
Dude, it's just like, what are we doing here if we can't just say the guy who is quite easily the best defensive player in the NFL, comfortably? That again,
maybe the best player.
Yes. That, and even it's not like, and it's not even like Patrick Mahomes at quarterback where, everyone kind of agrees he's the best quarterback, but maybe he doesn't play like the best quarterback weekend, and we got maybe the stats. So it's like the stats show it. He's leading the NFL in sacks right now. He is, when left one-on-one, no one wins at a higher rate at the defensive end position, at any position. So it's him. I'm not going to be convinced by any other argument otherwise. It's like, that's how I want awards to be handed out. It's how I want all pros to be handed out. I don't want to give out your team.
You get 5 sacks and you lose. It just makes no sense.
Yes. So to me, it's Myles Garrett. All right, Coach here. Oh, what do you got, JP?
Real quick, some underlying stats for Myles Garrett. He's double teamed at the highest rate among guys with in the top 20 of pass rush win rate. He's double teamed at a 32% rate, which is more than 3% more than anybody else in that list. He's also 8th in pass rush win rate, even while being double teamed at an incredibly high rate. He's played even better against the run this year, which I think has gone sort of underrated because teams just run the ball a lot against the Browns. But I feel bad for him because he is the Tungsten Arm O'Doyle meme, because he had, like I said, he had 5 sacks and they lost by 20 points. Like it's not real. Like some of the stuff that he does is not real. So this is a hey man, we see you. This is a we see you award. We see you like darn near closing in on like some legendary numbers, fastest player to 300 sacks. Like it's now not just like, is he the best defensive player in football right now, which I think is yes, but is he the best modern edge defender of all time? Like when it comes to the modern era, I also think so.
So depends on what you consider JJ Watt. I think in their
JJ Watt's a football player. JJ Watt's just a football player. That's what the position is.
At their peak, I think you're splitting hairs, because I think Watt was actually a little bit more impactful because you couldn't really double team Watt as easily because he did play so much on the interior, was like more of a 4 or 5 tech when he really had his like defensive player of the year seasons. But as a pure edge rusher, there's no one who's better in the NFL as a pure just like line him up outside OT one-on-one. There's no one that is as good as Myles Garrett. I don't think it's close.
See, that's where I went. I consider JJ Watt more of a defensive tackle. Yeah. Which is why I always like when we're talking about like best modern defensive players, like best modern defensive tackles, it's always JJ Watt versus Aaron Donald, because those guys were very similar in how they played. But with edge, I mean, the only guy that really comes close like modern is like Von Miller. And
yeah,
that Myles Garrett is kind of blowing those stats out the water right now.
Yeah, he's
styles make fights. If you ask some tackles, they would say Khalil Mack from the 20 teens because of the power, and like even a matchup in today's game like with a guy like Jared Verse would not bode well for a number of people. Some guys like myself, I want to chase the leopard around. I don't want to deal with the rhino. So like I would rather play Von Miller because I know that built into playing Von Miller, you got a tight end next to you. You got the slide coming to you. You've got the fullback coming out of the backfield. Oftentimes when you play these guys like Jared Verse, like Khalil Mack, you're not getting as much help because, they're not as sexy a winner as some of these guys. That's a deeper conversation. But J.J. Watt was a football player, not an edge.
All right, Coach of the Year. Preseason, I said Sean Payton. Kyle said Dan Campbell. JP said Jonathan Gannon. I don't think Jonathan Gannon's going to win this one, but as it stands right now, I'm going Shane Steichen. We're all going Shane Steichen. Really hard to argue. They have the best record in the NFL, Indianapolis Colts. No one expected him to do this. They're starting Daniel Jones at quarterback for pretty much every reason you can think of. It's really hard to go anyone else. I think the only other argument I could see right now is for Kyle Shanahan, simply because they're 5-3 in the playoffs with the most decimated roster in the NFL. But the Colts at 7-1, it's really tough to go anywhere else.
Yeah, I think this is
Fraley.
I think this is Shane Steichen's award to lose. The Colts have been historic on offense this year. It's not just they are the best offense in the NFL. They have been putting up historic numbers when it comes to efficiency. Yeah. But I do think there's an argument to be made for Todd Bowles as Coach of the Year, given it's sort of similar to Kyle Shanahan and the Niners with everybody being hurt. The fact that this team can still overcome all of that and still be not only like leading the division, like pretty much like you're getting high level play out of like Anthony Nelson at this stage of his career. You're getting Baker Mayfield career level numbers. Like the fact you're getting all this without having your starting offensive line healthy at all at any point in this season. You haven't had your entire complement of receivers at all this season. Bucky Irving's been hurt. You're missing your best pass rusher. The fact that they're still in this, I think it speaks a lot to Todd Bowles and how much he has improved, especially when it comes to game management. I don't think he's made the Todd Bowles blunders of yesteryear.
It's got to be Steichen, but if I had to give a 1B, it would be to Dan Campbell, just for all that he had to deal with in Detroit in terms of turnover. And the way that his guys have responded just shows me how great of a leader he is. And while they haven't been perfect, they're still the Lions, and you're still going to have to deal with those guys come playoff time. And I think a big part of that is the culture there, and that's Dan Campbell.
Let's get to MVP award, where our preseason predictions are not going to come to fruition. Kyle said Lamar Jackson. JP said Lamar Jackson. I said Joe Burrow. Who do we got right now, JP?
It's Drake May. It's May Day in the NFL. There's not many more words to say what Drake May is doing right now with the Patriots offense. That again, I don't want to say this team has a bunch of nobodies, because it's not. But he's turning Kayshon Boutte threat at receiver. He's turning back the clock for Stephon Diggs. You're throwing whole shots to Mac Hollins. You have an offensive line that is still a work in progress. The run game is still not where it's supposed to be. And yet this offense is still putting up points, still putting up numbers, and putting up record efficiency, because Drake May is putting up record efficiency, especially throwing the ball downfield. On 20-plus air yard passes, he's 13 for 17. That's an insane number. His EPA per drop back on those is 2.28, which is miles ahead of the next guy, which is Sam Darnold, at 1.53. He's lapping the field in these areas, and the growth that he's made from promising to elite in one offseason has been incredible.
Who you got, Mike?
I'm going Drake May as well, just because one, he's third in the EPA per dropback. The two guys ahead of him, Jordan Love, Daniel Jones, their offensive lines are clearly much better. Their wide receiving cores are light years better. I even say their play callers are better, or at least historically have been better than Josh McDaniels. So for all those reasons, just if you take supporting cast into account, which to me, valuable player, you have to. He has a bottom 10 supporting cast in the NFL still. I don't think that's even a debate. It is not a great situation still. And for him to be putting up those sorts of numbers, third in EPA per dropback, fifth in success rate, first in completion percentage over expectation, it shouldn't be a good offense, and it is. Nothing says it should be besides Drake May. It's hard to go against him, even if I will be surprised if he wins the award by season's end, just because it's going to be hard to sustain just statistically versus some of these other guys playing quarterback in the NFL and what surrounds them. But to me, it feels like the Josh Allen argument from last year, where it was why did Josh Allen win? What was the one thing you could say he did versus Lamar Jackson? Well, it's just he didn't have as much talent. That was probably the only thing you could say about him. With Drake May right now, you can definitely say that about him versus anyone else basically in this MVP conversation.
When do they give this award?
Well, we're giving it right now, but they give it at NFL Honors Night.
So NFL Honors, and that falls after the week one of playoffs or before the playoffs?
That falls right before the Super Bowls.
So, okay. Yeah, actually, I should know that. I was there. I was there when my brother won Walter Payton Man of the Year, and I forgot suit pants, and I wore carpenter jeans with my jacket.
Good look.
It's going to be Patrick Mahomes, and it's going to be Patrick Mahomes because he is only going to get better, and I've seen enough in the recent weeks to put him as the midseason MVP. Look, I'm as excited as anybody about Drake May. And I love great football. And I think quarterbacking is the easiest way to get great football. And they found it in New England. And he's fun to watch. The explosive shots, the downfield accuracy, like you said, turning back the clock on a number of these guys and elevating the play of other guys. It's Tom Brady-ish, okay? The things that he's doing. I'll say it. It's unbelievable. but it's Patrick Mahomes' league right now. And he has put the league on notice the last handful of weeks, particularly with the health and the return of a guy like Rashee Rice. And he's been healthy. That's not why he wasn't on the field. But he's only going to get better. This offense is going to score 40 a game. And Patrick is the reason for that. And that's not lost on me. I am not bored by the greatness. And, I'm not saying you guys are, but there's a lot of people who take it for granted. And I don't. And when I watch it, it's not supposed to look that easy. And the same thing could be said for Drake May. But that's my pick, Patrick Mahomes.
And I think the thing with Patrick Mahomes, like even as the offense has sort of been in flux, he is still playing at an elite level. He has been their run game for a large part of the season with his scrambling. And it's kind of like what Kyle said, like they're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to probably make the Super Bowl again. And if they make the Super Bowl again with everything that has sort of been in flux for this offense, with missing your left tackle, they are missing Trey Smith on Monday. They're missing Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy. It's hard not to pick Patrick Mahomes for this. I do think some underrated names I think will probably get a little more shine as the season goes on. I think Justin Herbert, once you get you've gotten Joe Alt back and you could see that Justin Herbert's like, oh yeah, that guy is really good. And then Matthew Stafford / the Immortal Chamber should get MVP votes because he is having the Unk Still Got It year at 37 and with a bad back. So I think seeing those guys, of course we talked about Jonathan Taylor, but right now I just think with what May is doing, like that, it's hard to go against a guy in his second year doing what he's doing right now.
I agree. If I had to bet, given what we know now and given the trajectory, I bet Mahomes wins. I would not bet against Patrick Mahomes right now. He has 9 touchdowns over the last 3 weeks. Like since Xavier Worthy's been healthy, this offense has just been an absolute house. And yeah, I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. But you got to get, to me, you just got to give Drake May right now. I just don't think anyone has been more impressive on a consistent basis. Week 1 was bad. Since then, he's been lights out every single game since. Mahomes had some stinkers. First 3 weeks of the season were not great. Since then, it's been awesome. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. That's our show for today. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. We will be back tomorrow doing our power tiers. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, keep pushing.